and then you'd only get that one. Whereas with the service, you can switch your watch every 3 months.
Right. And that's it. He gets tired of what he has. He does this with cars too. And goes into stupid debt because he doesn't keep a car long enough, doesn't pay it down quick enough, loses money on sale. So there are guys like that. I don't know if we should be encouraging
They should make a Tag Heuer calculator watch.
I mean, I'm fine with anybody spending a lot of money on a fancy watch or renting one, whatever. If this is something that you like, you know, and it's your hobby of sorts, I don't think you should be treated better for wearing a nice watch, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, exactly. There's a difference between should we treat people better because of that and do we, right? I imagine the people treating him better may not have even realized they were doing it in lots of cases.
I will say this as a former server and person who worked in the restaurant industry, I did serve people that seemed to be not just well dressed, but very well dressed, because you never knew if that person could get you fired, and so you just didn't want to. You played it kind of safe.
Patek Philippe is one of the top watches on this rental.
Roger, I thought you were going to say it's because you knew they would tip well because you saw their fancy watch.
Actually, you know what? I have found that is actually not true. In most cases, it's a 50-50. Like it's average. Like some of the biggest tips I ever got were from very wealthy people, but they didn't dress very wealthy. Maybe with the exception of a watch, but other than that, they had like kind of a wrinkly button-down shirt because they were just working, doing business all day. But you knew they were wealthy because they were, they bought like 8 bottles of $100 champagne. Even though if you saw them in the corner, you wouldn't have thought they were very rich people, but they were.
Yeah, that is something I've read in multiple places, that one of the signs of wealth is not wearing trendy new things. Like your clothes are nice, but maybe a little threadbare. Maybe a little wrinkly. Like
he had a Mercedes, but it was like 8 years old,
right? And
his wallet was like super beat up, but he would just pull it out and you pull out a credit card, pay for it. But if you saw it, it's like, ooh, that's like a designer wallet. No, it just looked like a big fat wallet with a bunch of stuff crammed in it.
A bunch of money crammed into it. Oh, all right, Sarah, are you ready?
I sure am.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, Sarah.
Yes, Tom?
You weren't ready, were you?
It's Sarah, and I said, yes, Tom.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I think I know why. Hold on. Let me just try something. Sarah.
Yes, Tom?
Why can't I hear you?
I don't know.
You're talking and I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you?
Can everyone else hear me?
I can hear you. No, I can hear. I think it's
I can't hear any of you guys for some reason.
I think it's
you can hear us.
Audio hijack.
When I start recording, I can't hear you anymore.
You didn't add output that is your
No, I haven't changed anything there. Weird.
Is it me recording audio hijack?
No, it's not. It's me. For some reason, I'm just not hearing it come back through. Just a technical issue. Hold on. Let me try.
Good thing this is a tech show.
Okay, there it is. I found it. Whew.
You hear me now?
Yep. Right. We're all good. Cool, Sorry about
that. Now everyone knows we've got a thing.
Shh, good day, internet. Don't tell anyone. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, Sarah.
Yes, Tom?
Our long national nightmare is over.
Tacos are free?
No, different national nightmare.
Oh, you mean the Apple Samsung, that whole suit. They've settled their 7-year-long patent and introduced us all to the phrase chamfered edges along the way.
That's the one I'm talking about. They've settled. We don't know for how much, but Apple says it was about more than money.
So Samsung took back what it said about turtlenecks, I guess.
We may never know, but the war is finally over.
I just want Judge Lucy Coe to take a nice vacation because she has earned it. May patent peace reign forever.
What's that? You want to give back some value for the value you get out of Daily Tech News Show? No problem. Just head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support to find out how.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, June 27th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From studio, I don't have an animal around me at the moment. I'm Scott Johnson.
Also with us, our producer, Roger Chang.
Hello.
And let me just tell you, folks, patent peace feels great.
It's almost too good to be true.
Almost is, isn't it? Yeah. You know, back in 2011, when Sarah, Lane, and I were doing the Tech News Today program, we first covered that patent lawsuit. We
covered it to the point that we even had a running gag about patent wars because
then. Yeah.
It just, we were so young. And it finally seems to have been put to bed. So, wow. Good work, Apple and Samsung.
Yeah, well done. All right. Let's move on into the few tech things you should know.
Well, speaking of Samsung, the company announced an Unpacked event happening at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York on August 9th. Samsung usually announces new Galaxy Note models at this time of year, and what appears to be a new Note and a new tablet recently went through the US FCC's system.
Well, Twitter recently announced support for a USB key second factor authentication. Like YubiKey. You guys know the one. Stick it in there and it goes, oh, hey, I know you. You're legit. And new accounts on Twitter will now have to verify either a phone number or email address. So Twitter buckling down on the 2FA.
And Google announced Wednesday it's retiring the brand names DoubleClick and AdWords. End of an era. Tools for buying ads will now just be called Google Ads and get a simplified default interface to boot. High-end software for ad buyers is going to be called Google Marketing Platform, and there'll be a complementary tool for large sellers called Google Ads Manager. AdSense and AdMob are sticking around, though, for small websites and mobile app developers. All right, let's talk about Snap. It's got big plans, Scott.
Oh, yeah, man. Also, I took it a little hard that Google AdWords isn't a thing I'll ever hear again. Anyway, let's talk about this. The information reports that Snap plans to introduce a gaming platform for the Snapchat app, citing two sources with familiarity with the company's plans. Snap reportedly will let developers make games for Snapchat and has a deal with at least one unnamed publisher. Snap already offers basic augmented reality games called Snappables. A lot of that stuff's based on other technology they use for putting, animal faces on yourself and all that stuff. They're sort of leveraging that. Anyway, one lets Snapchat users raise their eyebrows as many times as they can in a few seconds and then challenge a friend to beat their score. It is the very definition of rudimentary gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, the eyebrow game does not sound fun to me. I've never tried it. But, this sort of silliness aside, if there's more of an incentive to be in Snapchat and especially connect with your friends rather than just, looking at each other's snaps, I can see why the company would want to at least try this out.
Well, I would actually, I'm in favor of this because the augmented reality stuff actually has some real potential here. And by that, I mean creating such situations where you and your best friends on Snapchat are participating in kind of a virtual, try to find the hidden object, or you're basically geocaching, but from a distance. You could create all kinds of really fun, interesting ways of interacting in the real world with augmented reality and do it in multiplayer. I mean, they may actually lead in this area because they're trying this out with an already installed base, and there aren't too many other people trying to do this with the platform. So I actually think there's real potential here. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a good idea for Snapchat to improve on the eyebrow raising game by letting developers try a crack at it.
You think? I mean, that's like Pong. Eventually we'll graduate to something more substantial, hopefully.
Well, with everything that's going on with Instagram, it's fascinating to see where Snap is like, okay, well, instead of just copying your stuff that you copied from us in the beginning, we're kind of going to go in a different direction, and how the two might diverge and who comes out on top.
True.
Facebook is testing an option to let users snooze specific keywords for 30 days. Posts containing the keywords would not show up during the time frame, your timeline. Now, to snooze a keyword, a user must first find a post that contains that keyword, which obviously is not ideal, although Facebook says it's working on adding an option to preemptively snooze keywords through some sort of search.
Yeah, this is definitely an example of them saying, like, I mean, it's not just for negative political comments, it could be for movie spoilers, but it obviously is designed for negative political comments because, or just negative comments in general, because the way it's designed is I see something I don't like, I mute it and I don't see it again for 30 days. Versus if you're like, I don't want to be spoiled on Ant-Man and the Wasp, you don't look for a post about Ant-Man and the Wasp because you're likely to get spoiled by it. It will be good for that when they add the ability to preemptively block it. But I like this as a feature. I don't know that I use Facebook enough to really run into it myself, but I'm sure a lot of people will use it.
Well, I use these features on Twitter a lot. I think it's a useful thing. I really don't like them having to hunt down an example of it in order to mute it. If my mom wants to, at her ripe old age, eliminate all F-bombs from her timeline, she's got to go find somebody F-bombing to do it. And
well, the use case would be she sees an F-bomb and goes, I don't want to see that, but only for 30 days, not permanent.
Right. Also, I don't know how, because I haven't used it yet, I don't know how easy this is. So
you click on the upper right corner, I think, and it gives you a list of all the nouns, all the non-articles in the post, and then you choose which one you want to mute.
Right, yeah, I mean, if something was actually triggering you or upsetting you, be it politics or movie spoilers or whatever, it would be annoying to have to see that first post in order to be like, I don't want this anymore. Let's just say somebody gets married and there are just lots of posts and maybe I wasn't there and whatever. It's like, I can see where it wouldn't be offensive to me to see that first post and go, you know what? Let's just come back when you're done with your honeymoon.
Megan, we understand you're happy about your marriage.
Right. Yeah. But Sarah doesn't want to see that.
The U.S. Department of Justice has given approval for Disney to acquire most of 21st Century Fox. Remember, that deal does not include the Fox Broadcast Network, Fox News, or FS1, FS2, and the Big Ten Network. However, it was supposed to include the Fox regional sports networks. I know that's been confusing because you want to just be like, the sports goes where? Well, part of it went to Disney and part of it would not. The Department of Justice filed a suit on Wednesday and then came to a settlement that would require Disney to divest itself of the regional sports networks within 90 days of the completion of an acquisition, because the Department of Justice believes that Disney owning ESPN and all of the other like SEC network and stuff that they own would be anti-competitive if they owned these 22 Fox Sports regional networks as well. So Disney has agreed to the conditions and said, yeah, okay, we'll find a buyer for them. 21st Century Fox does not appear interested in keeping them at all, by the way. If you're thinking, oh, we'll just leave them as part of Fox, they don't want them. So it would probably be Comcast or maybe AT&T with Warner Media that would be the most likely buyers, although it could be somebody else. And Comcast still has a competing bid out for 21st Century Fox, and the word on the street is they're going to up their bid to try to outbid Disney. So this is far from over.
Yeah. How long can that go? Like, can they just keep bidding until someone, just like a regular auction or something, until somebody blinks? I know it's a bigger process and it takes all this approval in between.
Theoretically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Comcast doesn't have approval from the Department of Justice yet, so Disney's got the upper hand right now. But it has to get to a point where the shareholders say, no, this bid is the right one, and it does the fiduciary duty for all shareholders, so we're going to accept that one.
Oh, it just feels like the story that you never stop hearing about in 2018. We're never about this deal, but finally it'll go through, and then who knows? But right now, like you say, it looks like Disney's got the upper hand. I think it's funny that Fox just doesn't want that stuff, but I also understand the ESPN thing.
Well, right now, regional sports networks make a lot of money, so they're a good sale, but they're not guaranteed to continue because that sports business model is being threatened by a lot of things like, Hulu and YouTube, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well, Sony has taken a lot of criticism lately for not allowing full cross-platform play, on Fortnite, the biggest video game in the world, I might add, while Microsoft and Nintendo do. Sean Layden, president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment America, told Eurogamer, quote, "We're looking at a lot of possibilities. You can imagine that the circumstances around that affect a lot more than just one game. I'm confident we'll get to a solution which will be understood and accepted by our gaming community, while at the same time supporting our business." There's no, by the way, technical reason preventing cross-platform play. So this appears to be Sony trying to resolve a business reason or resolve this business problem with more business reasons, such as in-game purchases. Basically, I mean, it comes down to this. Sony does not want you to be able to register the game on their platform and then go to another platform, say the Nintendo Switch in this case, buy a bunch of in-game items that you did not have to give Sony a cut for, and then go back to the Sony platform and play on their platform, and they got nothing for it. That's their big hang up. They're in a leadership position. They're going to keep digging in, I think, but this is showing a little bit of a crack in that, and there is a lot of pressure on them, and it looks real bad. But from a gamer's perspective, what they're doing. So I actually think that this is probably the beginning of some sort of change. The big question is whether it will be for this game only, or will this apply, as he mentioned, to a whole lot of other games that are kind of under the same roof. They're just not the most popular game in the world.
Yeah, I think what Sony's trying to do is say, well, we need a system that's going to work for everybody, and we don't want to lose out on in-game purchases. And probably there are some partners who are not wanting to have easy cross-platform play because they can take advantage of that and sell people multiple items on multiple platforms. So they're trying to work out a deal with all their partners that'll work for everybody. And when you're the leading console maker, it becomes a bigger deal than if you're like, hey, you know what? We'll gain users if we do it. And that's what we need. Whereas Sony's like, we don't need more users. We would love more users, but we're leading already. We need to protect that business model.
Sure. The bigger problem here is they're pushing, I think, against a inevitable wave of change in this one regard. We're getting away from platforms and then what you can play within those walls. We're getting closer to an idea where games themselves and an account that controls that game is what matters to players, and then you just play it wherever you want to play it. You can play it on your phone. Speaking of Fortnite, play it on the phone, play it on these consoles, play it on PC, and now on the Switch. Pretty much every platform under the sun will have a copy of Fortnite on it. That's cool and exciting, and one of the reasons it's the biggest game ever, but this really makes this look like a big sore thumb. So Sony either has to do something about it from a sort of PR problem standpoint, or they're going to have to buckle down and just say, well, this, we're the leader right now. But man, Tom, I told you this morning on TMS, I've seen this cycle so many times with different console manufacturers, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Sega, all of them. They do this every time. The lead platform starts out hungry and humble, and when they get leadership position again, they turn cold and corporate. And yes, there's lots of arguments for why, but at the end of the day, gamers revolt and they go with somebody else next time, and then they have to fight to be hungry and humble again. It's the same stupid circle, and it drives me slightly insane.
Well, and how many people are not going to buy a PS4 because they can't play Fortnite on their phone and PS4, or their Switch and PS4 at the same time? Probably not that many.
Probably not.
They're still going to buy it anyway.
Yeah. The biggest bummer is it's the biggest game in the world. That's the biggest problem for them, is they don't know quite how to handle this. If this was a small developer with a little excited group of players, fine. But Fortnite is the definition of a gaming.
Yeah, they wouldn't care at all if it wasn't Fortnite. And by the way, PUBG dropped its lawsuit against Fortnite. So Fortnite's free and clear now.
Exactly.
Somebody on Twitter said yesterday, this is probably a joke that's been made, I finally figured out why they call it Fortnite, because that's how often I see my son. Hey, get it? Microsoft says its facial recognition tools are better at identifying people who have darker skin than they used to be. Error rates have supposedly been reduced by as much as about 20x. At the same time, IBM announced 2 new public data sets for training facial recognition as well, one of which has been curated specifically to remove bias by including a greater mix of face types.
Yeah, this is something. This is a great way to wrap your head around how databases and algorithms might not be fair. Is to think about just the fact, if you take a representative sample of the United States, about 2/3 of the faces are going to be light skinned. They're going to be white. And if you train a database on that, it's going to get way better at identifying those types of faces because it's got more data to work at. So you have to give a non-representative sample, which is what IBM's doing, to say like, hey, we want it to work every time. We don't want it to work better for the people we have more faces. So let's give it a variety of faces, not a representative sample of faces. And then it will actually work better for everybody.
Right. I used to think that if me and Judge Reinhold ended up in the same video, that nobody would know the difference between us. And now I'm starting to think that the computers are going to best us. So I've given up.
I used to never have facial recognition work for me. Like back at CES, whenever they do the demos, it just would not see a face.
Yeah.
Which was very disappointing.
It is.
Your eyes. Something's wrong with your eyes, Tom.
Yeah. But the Microsoft Surface was the first one where I'm like, oh, it actually works. It sees that I'm here, and that's great. So,
well, it's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, this is a bad comparison, but it's representative, people in business, or emojis, and all of this stuff is like, someone kind of goes like, well, wait a second. I mean, if it's only sort of trained to see a certain kind of face, that doesn't make sense. That's not actually the way that, humans work. And we have to expand on that.
Yeah. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, which you can find across many platforms, as well as at dailytechheadlines.com. So Google is beginning public testing of Duplex. Remember Duplex at Google I/O? It caused a little bit of a stir because it's a system that uses the Google Assistant with a much improved voice over what you get on your Google Home or Android to call businesses and talk to them in normal speech, even doing things like ums and ahs and and stuff like that. Well, they're taking it to the streets. Google says that they've improved it enough that it can complete 4 out of 5 automated tasks without anyone intervening. Public testing is going to begin with a small group of trusted testers, so most of us won't get to do this. And those testers will only be able to use it to call businesses who have agreed to take the calls. At first, it's just going to start with, I want to confirm the business hours. Independence Day holiday coming up next Wednesday in the United States. Are you open July 4th? Will be the kind of thing it can do for now. Later this summer, they're going to let it start doing booking reservations at restaurants. And then after that, they'll want it to do hair appointments. But this is a key point here. Duplex is not I can impersonate a human at anything. It's very trained for specific tasks. So asking about hours, it can do right now. They're pretty close to being comfortable letting the public test it with restaurants. They're not so sure about hair yet. They've got some more work to do, but they think they'll have that ready soon enough. Also, it will always open with some kind of variation on, I'm the Google Assistant, this call will be recorded. So that you're talking to an automated booking service. It'll even say, I'm Google's automated booking service in some cases. It varies it up, but it's always going to identify that's not a person and say if it's recording it in states that need it. Although in some states, you actually have to have a permit to do this sort of machine recording. So in Texas, they will not be operating this until they get the proper permitting there. Uses WaveNet, so it has multiple voices. It can even do lip smacks and breathing, although it's not doing that yet, but it does do that thing that I was talking about. Those are called disfluencies. And they think it's important to do that because it lets folks know, oh, it's still on the line, right? Like, oh, can you hold while I check that? And it goes, it's still listening. Also, it's just kind of a polite way to ask for a correction. Like, could it be for 5 people? That kind of thing. It just makes it seem more natural. Anyway, the reason this is in the news today is not only the announcement of the public test, but they did press events Monday at Tep Thai restaurant in New York City and Tuesday at Oren's Hummus Shop in Mountain View, California, and let the press play the receptionist and try to trip this thing up and put it through its paces. All the journalists I read were impressed by it and said, yeah, it's real. Almost all of them were able to trip it up and have it go to a human. And that's the other thing is in these tests, and probably for the foreseeable future, Google is going to have humans step in if it becomes clear that the Google Assistant is not able to handle the conversation.
I mean, it still feels a little to me like a solution looking for a problem outside of, I know this has been talked about on the show before, so I don't want to pound it to death, but outside of things like people who are handicapped in some way and can't vocalize the way they need to on a phone call or something, I can see huge benefits there. It's amazing. But generally speaking, just call and make the reservation. They haven't sold me yet. I'm excited about it from a technology standpoint. I think it's cool. And I like that they're going further and they're testing it, but I don't know if I'll ever use this.
Well, okay. So I made a hair appointment for myself this morning, and I know that we have a long way to go before it is able to handle more complicated queries. But my original request is so and so available at this time on Saturday. If not, I could maybe do we could figure out some some sort of other time, or, do a little variation on what my service, request was originally. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if this was Google calling, and the receptionist is sort of trying to figure out what I actually want, and I'm not on the line, they would definitely go to the person at the call center, and then that person's the one who ends up booking my appointment. And do they really know all the details of all the stuff that I wanted to do? Like, it seems like I'm offloading complication unnecessarily. Like you said, Scott, it's not hard for me to do it. It'd be cool if Duplex could work this all out for me, but I can't even imagine a world where the machine would know exactly what I was asking, because there were lots of different levels to the conversation.
Well, the way Duplex works with the reservations for restaurants is you say, make a reservation for 7, and it'll say, if I can't get 7, will anytime between 6 and 8 work? And you either say yes, no, or give it a new range. I imagine it could be tied into your calendar, and you say like, yeah, anytime I'm free on Saturday before 5, and it could do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The whole sort of like pauses and ums and human-like stuff, I get why it's not because it's supposed to fool the person on the other line into thinking it's a human, but just make it kind of conversational. But if you say off the bat, I'm Google Duplex, I'm an assistant, by the way, this call is being recorded, it seems a little silly after the fact, because you already know that it's not a person, so it's not going to act like one.
Listen to this.
Calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Oh, I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the assistant talking.
I hate it. Why do we want that? That's awful. I hate it. Because
why do you hate it?
First of all,
it's not fooling you, because
because it says I'm Google Assistant.
So it comes out and it says, all right, I'm recording this and I'm an assistant. Then it does this, hey, what's the deal? And starts talking like a real person, which I think is super creepy. I think it will be discordant for the person on the receiving end who isn't prepared for this. And I think when it does get all jacked up, it's going to make them feel weird and exposed. And I don't know why people can't just call them.
But the person on the receiving end would be part of a business that's already said, yeah, we'll do this. So they wouldn't be totally blindsided, right?
Cherlyn Lowe from Engadget agrees with Scott. She's like, I don't want it to be ums and ahs. If I know it's a bot, that's weird. Like, you're not alone, Scott.
Yeah, I just find that really odd. But I mean, part of me is like, oh, that's so cool because she sounded really real. And another part of me is like, I don't want to get bad. I don't want human beings to get bad at this. We should still be good at calling a thing and doing a thing. I don't know. That sounds old manish, and
it is.
That's not where I'm trying to go.
You are literally yelling at the cloud service that we were talking about.
Robots won't take our jobs. I'm calling my own salon.
Okay.
Said something that's interesting that I hadn't considered. Automated functions like your calendars are updated with this. I mean, those are good arguments. I'll give you that. Maybe it's a thing where like I'm in a very busy business meeting. In the meantime, my assistant is off making 8 calls I can't make myself because I'm busy.
Yeah.
I mean, starting to talk about practical uses, but
also whether it's right or not, there's a lot of people who are like, if I have to pick up the phone, I don't have time for that. I'll use a different service that allows me to book online. This allows businesses to say, we don't want to set up an online booking system, but we can go into Google and say, yes, we'll accept these automated calls. And suddenly they have an online booking system. It's better for the business to be able to do this in some cases. And it just takes advantage of the fact that for good or ill, Scott, whether they're disappointing you with their laziness, people just will more likely take advantage of this if they don't have to do the talking.
Yeah. I don't know why the way I used to feel about voice recognition back in the 90s when it was terrible, and I was so excited for it. And I said, this is going to get better. I swear it's going to get better. And people were like, oh, whatever. It's not ready for prime time. VR is another good example in the 90s. It just wasn't ready. So they kept working on it. And we finally got fidelity that works in both of those cases. And I was really jazzed about those. This is another case of one of those things. This is the start of what will eventually be a natural language thing that just happens. You don't think about it. I just feel like I'm not sure where the problem is, at least for most people, that they need this solution for. So I will be happily turned around on this. It just feels a little, I don't know, feels weird. Odd.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Sometimes there are weird stories in there. Sometimes they involve robots and AI. Sometimes they don't. You can submit stories, the ones that you care about the most, and also vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and also on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. But don't snooze us for 30 days. My goodness. We're due. It's your prerogative.
Let's check the mailbag. Am I a bot? Sarah?
I don't know, Tom. You should disclose that I could. Oh. Are you a robot? Call center. Call center.
I'll take over for Google Assistant now.
Okay, robot, you're a little off the rails. Let's go to the mailbag. Rob wrote in reference to our story the other day about tablet rating systems sometimes hurting wait staff because of the rating systems that are programmed into the tablets themselves in restaurants. Rob says, just want to let you know, we work on Apple products. This is his company. Sometimes we have to work with the local authorized reseller, though, to get things fixed under warranty. We have a really good relationship with Audiotronics. They told us a similar thing about the rating system there. Anything less than 5 stars hurts their relationship with Apple. So now we have a problem with Apple's procedures, and we have to make sure that we, or our clients, if they took their product there directly, only judge what Audiotronics did and not what Apple originally did, even if the problem originates with Apple. It's sad when we feel like we have to give Audiotronics 5 stars, even if Apple screwed over our clients initially.
Yeah, it's not a problem with Ziosk per se. It's a problem with rating systems, right? Like that's what needs to be fixed. And the more I think about it, the more I think these companies shouldn't promote that side of it. They shouldn't be encouraging restaurants to make use of a survey that isn't going to give the results it needs to. It's not going to improve their system. It might even make it worse.
Yeah, I mean, the systems basically are set up to be, if it's perfect, you're at the, it's 5 stars. Anything less than that means that something was wrong. So is it maybe like thumbs up, thumbs down?
And that's true on Uber and Lyft. I've heard drivers say the same thing. Like, if you don't give me 5 stars, it's like you gave me none.
I mean, I don't have a 5-star rating on Uber. I don't know why. I'm always really nice, but somehow it's like docked, and now I'm like, there's something wrong with me.
Well, and if you have like 4.5 stars, you should feel good about it, but everybody goes,
what did you do?
Yeah, exactly.
There's that Black Mirror episode I always think of with Bryce Dallas Howard in it that reminds me of this, where everybody's doing nothing but trying to get 5 stars from everybody they meet. Sure. Gaming business long suffered from this. Like Steam's got a big issue with the way ratings work and what those ratings mean. I feel like it's I don't know. Yelp is another good example. I feel like this is just a hard egg to crack, and I don't know who's going to crack it.
Hey, big thanks to Sean Khanna from the US of A, who reviewed us on iTunes and said, I'm picky with my podcasts and like to only listen to the best of them. As long as I have DTNS, I'm pretty good on the tech side.
That is a 5-star review if I've ever heard it.
Yeah. Leave us 5-star reviews on iTunes. Remember, anything less is like giving us nothing.
Well, thanks to everybody who always gives us reviews and 5 stars always at emails and all the like. And a special thanks to Scott Johnson for being with us this Wednesday. Scott, what has been happening?
Well, lots of cool stuff going on over in my world. Go to the 5-star website known as frogpants.com and check it out. There's all sorts of 5-star content there, including a brand new comic put up today. It deals with phishing scams, which I recently fell victim to. And so I made a comic about it. It's a really dumb comic and with a dad joke in it about fish tacos, but you'll get it if you see it. Head on over there to frogpants.com and click on the comics link. Or you can follow all my shows, all my other stuff there if you'd like. And you can follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Yesterday, I said, stop what you're doing unless you're driving and support us on Patreon. And several of you wrote in to say you did. So thank you for that. We're trying to get for this month 10 more patrons than last month, and we are extremely close. So we just need a couple more of you to do that. Again, if you're driving, pull safely to the side of the road. But patreon.com/DTNS. You can see there's different perks at different levels. If you support the show a little more, you might get a few more things, but any amount of support is welcome. And we thank you for it at patreon.com/DTNS.
If you have feedback, our email address is a great way to give us that. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. If you can join us live, great. It's a lot of fun. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Scott Johnson, how do you feel about cookbook design?
I illustrated a cookbook once.
Whoa! Come on, Tom, Roger, we might be onto something.
Winning. Probably the thing people have been most excited about outside of the DTNS proper in a long time has been the idea of a Daily Tech News Show recipe book that we floated yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. So like, what, like stuff like recipes you guys have, people in the audience would have, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, because Good Day Internet has become so much about all sorts of things, sometimes to do with the show and expanding, but often about food, because everybody likes food and we have a lot of preferences about our food. So it was like,
turns out a large population of our audience are humans who eat food.
Yeah, they eat for sustenance and to stay alive. So it was sort of like a, hey, everybody has a few good recipes we'd like to share. That'd be fun. And then sort of those like life hack weird food recipes that are not necessarily fancy, but still maybe kind of fun to share. Maybe
I've had several people want those particularly. They're like, I want Sarah's compression algorithm recipes.
My cottage cheese life hack.
Yes.
Oh, I got them. Yeah. It's a whole index.
My wife's jambalaya is amazing. And she also makes these cookies she calls Wookiees.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good Wookiee.
Thank you.
Not bad.
I have enough dogs around. I can get close. So I think the two major form factors, correct me if I'm missing one, but the two major form factors under discussion, one would be sort of a pamphlet sized thing, like staple binding. The other that someone suggested is a ring bind that would come with a few, but then if you're a patron, you could get extra ones that you could add to the ring binder.
Oh, interesting. Well, the other thing about, so when I was helping make one of these for somebody, I don't know if this is still true, but one of the things that they required was the pages needed to be laminated and you needed a ring type binding. It could either be coil bound or it could be.
Oh, okay.
Because when you're doing recipe work, you don't want a book that's pages are going to fly the other way. You want it to.
There's oil splashing here.
That's a really good point.
The laminated part makes sense, but what's the ring part? Just so it
wouldn't, because how you open
doesn't get sticky.
You skip to like page 300 in a 500 page book and you try to keep it open and you can't. You got to kind of flatten it.
That's true. That's true.
Here. So I actually have examples. So this, when I put it like that, it just tends to want to close, right?
Exactly right.
Because it's staple bound. Whereas this, which is ring bound,
exactly,
can just sit like that, flat.
Exactly it.
Well, okay. So dumb question, because I know that physical stuff is cool, but is this something that should be physical or more of like an ebook type thing where you can just open it however you like?
Oh, you know what? It should definitely be physical because some people will want to have it.
Yeah.
But there's no reason not to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't, if it were me, I'd be like, I just want to, open it on my, laptop.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. A lot of people will be that way, I think.
It was like when I made my comic compilation book in 2015, there was a long time where I hesitated on it on the Kickstarter because I felt like, well, wait a minute, the entire thing that I'm printing is all on a website that I've been making for 15 years. And all I'm doing is compiling them into a book, but it's the exact same content. And smarter people than me were like, no, you don't understand. Yes, that's how most people are going to get your stuff, but there's a huge portion of people who would just love to have this thing on their coffee table. And I think there's probably tons of people who would just love to have a physical thing.
Sure.
You just do it digital for kicks because you just always have something digital.
Yeah, we could get, it's easy to give all the patrons a digital copy. Just be like, hey, if you support us on Patreon, you get it. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of patrons, where was that? Alan Char in our analyst Slack was referencing what I called eggy toast yesterday, where it's an egg in toast. And he said, this was called Toad in the Hole, where I come from.
Oh, Toad in the Hole.
Yeah, I don't know where the toad part of it is, but I guess it's something about a hole in the bread and the egg being the toad. I'm not sure, but maybe some of you know it that way. Toad in the hole.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've heard of that. Toad in the Hole. That's what they made on V for Vendetta. They made a Toad in the Hole. There was a scene where he was making one.
Really?
Yeah, I just saw that movie for Film Sack, and he's making and I think he called it that. But anyway, it was like toast.
You just saw it for the first time, or you rewatched it?
Yeah, rewatched it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's been a while, but
I love that movie.
good movie. Yeah,
Great.
really good.
The second best thing the Wachowski did among all the garbage they made. But yeah, those are. I mean, there are probably. I'll bet you find out there's a million people's weird home recipes, pretty nerdy stuff that they could contribute to this book. It'd be pretty.
Well, yeah, that's what we were talking about yesterday. Is like each of us would obviously put a recipe or two, but then we could solicit some from the audience.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, I like this idea.
I suppose wheat thins and brie could not be one of my submissions.
Why not?
Well, because it's not a recipe and it's not weird, but it's delicious.
You're making
Why? How could it could totally be a recipe? You just need a cool name for it. And then ingredients:
Right,
wheat
exactly.
thins, brie,
Brie in the hole.
recipe. Place wheat thins on plate. Take knife. Spread brie on wheat
Eat,
thin.
eat, enjoy, love your life.
That's the middle out compression recipe.
I'm such a fan of the wheat thin. It's the perfect cracker that I feel like it can be probably, I don't know. I could get creative with all the things you could do with a wheat thin because there's always a box of wheat thins in my cupboard.
We could have a section called Thin Client.
Nice. Actually, just call those thin clients.
Right.
You can tell people how to make brie. Like the whole.
Well, you could have a page of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bandwidth saving
Totally.
version of the recipe book. That's funny.
Our Thin Client recipe page. There we go. Boom. One page done.
Well, we're on a roll, guys.
Pretty good,
Roger's very silent.
All right. I'm just
but deadly.
literally yelling at the cloud service.
I like it.
Good.
That's good.
Done.
Done. Settled.
Great. That's great.
Well, Ding Chowder just tweeted me, speaking of Toad in the Hole versus Eggy Toast.
Uh-huh.
And Ding Chowder calls it egg in the hole. And then
Oh,
there's
that-
bacon on it, and there's a picture, and it's a whole thing.
That makes
So-
sense. Egg in the
so-
hole because there's holes.
Right. But I think there are a lot of variations of this.
Different
Now,
term.
the whole bacon part of this that's not for me, but I bet the rest of everybody on the show would think it looked really good.
Oh yeah. Put bacon on everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better way to ruin eggs than putting bacon on it. Ugh.
Really?
I don't like bacon.
You're like my daughter. She doesn't like it at all. She hates it.
It's a weird thing. It's like, it's not even that I think it tastes that bad. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the sodium. I just don't want it. I feel like any dish is better without it.
It's a smell thing for her as well. She can't even. She smells it and she's just like, oh, she feels sick. She can't stand it.
Yeah, there's something about that. I don't know what it is. But,
I smell it. I want to go wherever it is.
Exactly.
Oh, I smell it and I want it to go into my belly.
That's right.
And most people, at least people who eat meat or eat bacon, feel that way. Like, that's a wonderful smell. But I'm like, I almost like don't want to go into a diner if there's too much bacon smell because it'll just mess up whatever I'm eating.
This feels like something that's treatable.
By what? Just plugging my nose?
I don't know. We could reassociate you positive
Lobotomy?
feelings with bacon somehow.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to rehabilitate this. Like, how can you live?
Well, I mean, everybody's got something where they're like, I just don't like it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like
true. That's
more
true.
for you, right? Like, people don't like tomatoes, or people don't like. There's certain things where I'm
I
like,
have met people
but
who don't like
how can
tomatoes.
you not?
They are
like
my
it?
sister.
Yeah, like it's like I don't like watermelon, but
You don't
I
like
don't.
watermelon.
I don't know how to explain it. I just don't like it. I don't want it. It ruins any fruit salad I've ever had.
My brother-in-law
it's
hates
the best.
sauerkraut.
I love the fact that it's the texture. I don't know how to describe it. It's solid, and when you chew on it, it kind of falls apart.
Oh, that's what I don't like about it.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. It's like eating a fruit icicle or something that.
What?
We did a recording for my other podcast that I produce, and one of the questions we ask people at the end is sort of like a fun rapid fire thing: is what's your most hated food? And it's like avocado. You know, she said that like right away. And after we were done, because it's sort of at the end of the recording, I was like, "But hold on, do you really hate avocado? Like you hate it? I get if you don't love it as much as I do, but you hate it? Like it's such a non-offensive taste and creamy and delicious." And she's like, "I can't even look at avocado." So like I don't get that, but okay, I guess.
Some people don't like it because it's less the taste, but it's the idea. Like visually, I can honestly say an avocado looks kind of like a weird fruit, but
well,
I love it.
Lots of fruit that you open, you know, with a pit inside kind of looks the same.
No. I mean, like from the skin, it's kind of looks like an alligator, you know, leathery, you know, like Godzilla skin. And no offense, but the color inside reminds me of a lot of the kitchen appliance decor from the 70s, that avocado green.
Okay.
We had I mean, for some people, it's not an appealing color. But I guess what I'm saying, evolutionarily speaking, their ancestors probably wouldn't have dined on avocados, and therefore denied their lineage any advantage by having a narrower dietary.
I've definitely met folks from other parts of the world or the US or whatever, because avocados grow natively in certain parts of California quite a bit. And we're like, I just, you know, okay, I just have not been used to eating avocados as a child. That much I get. What I don't get is biting into, you know, a nice fresh avocado for the first time and being like, don't like this.
Well, you just said that about watermelon.
No, I know. The point is, it takes, you know, everybody's got their preferences. There's nothing wrong with not liking something. It's just
I'm pretty open to most things. Like I'll try something 2 or 3 times before I can say like I don't like it. Usually things like fish I didn't like is because people were crappy cooks. Like I remember getting what did I get? It was at a Denny's. It was really crappy, just soggy and just very unappetizing. That's why I always recommend restaurants that can do seafood well. If you can do seafood well, you could probably do everything else well.
You always have to check it, though. You always have to try it first, and then if you do seafood bad, it's like the most regretful thing you ever did.
Like of a place, sometimes there are places that do everything right except seafood. Like their fish and chips. It's like, why is this fish and chips soggy? Like it used to be fish, but now it's my lunch and it shouldn't be soggy.
Well, back when I didn't eat any meat except fish, I would always, you know, if somebody was like, let's go to a steakhouse, I'd always be like, yeah, I'll go, because there's always like one salmon dish or whatever. Like I can still go, but it was never good. It was always like, you know, the afterthought of the restaurant, because I'm the person who's not getting steak at the steakhouse. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it was never anything where you're like, woo, got to go back to that steakhouse and have the salmon. It was just
salmon. Or could you eat the lobster if it was like a sizzler?
Yeah, I don't like lobster. Too sweet.
A little sweet. As far as giant sea bug meat goes, it's pretty sweet.
I like a little lobster in my mac and cheese.
Oh,
mac and cheese is...
But I wouldn't want a lobster as a meal.
Oh, Sarah, that sounds so good right now.
Giant lobster.
I told you guys I eat
mac and cheese because I don't have to open it. I hate having to crack it open.
I don't like that either. I don't want to work. I don't want to work.
No, that's so boring.
It gives me the visceral thrill of feeling like superior to another creature.
Yeah, see, I don't get that. I don't get that thrill.
I can crush its outer skin and suck its inside.
I don't find that fun at all.
You know. I mean, you guys give fake bones to pets. Like,
time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay.
10 a.m. is
Wait,
fine.
They sound like the same woman, like talking to you, just once pre-recorded. It's just the weirdest voice.
It's creepy. Look, one day we're all gonna have an assistant who does things like an assistant does, and I'm stoked for that. But we're not. This isn't it yet. This is a weird.
Well, this is how you get there, though, right? Like you can't say don't do this, or else you'll never get to that thing you want.
But there's also this thing with like, I need to do a thing. I need to tell my assistant what I need, which means you could have probably just done it in the time you told her.
Well, now I think we're revealing something that I am also guilty of, which is an inability to delegate.
You know what?
I'm not going to cast stones at you for that. But trust me.
No, this is it. You've gotten to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
That, and so all of this seems like a weird waste. But
yeah, it seems like we're in this weird, early days holding period where it's like this all is useful, but we're stuck on the fact that it seems really human. But eventually, no one's going to care about that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the live stream. We're going to
Say
continue.
goodbye to the wider video.
Wider video, and patrons, stay tuned as Tom tickles your fancy with more of his whimsical puns. I don't know. See you later.